Welcome to Creation to Collection, the journey of a painting. Join us as we trace an artwork's life from inception to reception, highlighting each museum department it encounters along the way. Welcome back to another episode of Creation to Collection, the journey of a painting. We followed the work Return from Calvary, from a mere idea to a completed work, eventually finding its new home at the BYU Museum of Art. Today, we'll explore the processes of preparing an artwork to be placed on the wall and the physical aspects surrounding the exhibition of a work of art. We will dive into the design, fabrication, and installation of the piece. At the BYU Museum of Art, the departments of design and exhibition production and installation are crucial in bringing an artwork out of the vaults and into its new life on the wall. In this episode, we will be joined by Jeff Barney, head of design at the MOA, and John Adams, manager of exhibition production and installation, to discuss their vital roles within the museum ecosystem. Before we dive in, let's get a rundown of what exhibition design is, as well as what exhibition production and installation entails. A museum designer focuses on the viewer's physical and emotional experience as they visit an exhibition. Exhibition design includes elements such as lighting, the placement of the artwork, wall color, layout, and the flow of viewers. We talked with Jeff Barney about what his role at the BYU Museum of Art looked like.
My name is Jeff Barney. I'm the head of exhibition design at BYU Museum of Art. So from the exhibition design, the placement of all of the works, to what the galleries look like, to the color that we're going to be using throughout the galleries, the architectural elements that we're going to be putting in. But we also do catalogs for certain exhibitions. We'll do all of the marketing production, so any flyers, any brochures, billboards, ads in magazines, we do all of it. So any visual thing you see from the MOA, aside from the artwork, comes through my office. So we do all of that kind of thing.
But how does a museum designer utilize things from architectural elements to wall color in order to impact the viewer's experience? We asked Jeff to explain his process for his team as they designed the exhibition Earthbound and Heavenward, as well as the design decisions for curating Return to Calvary.
I meet with the curator, and we talk a lot about what the thesis is of the exhibition, but we also talk a lot about what she wants to accomplish, both in terms of curatorially the message that she wants to produce, but also kind of the mood she wants to create. So unlike most designers want their stuff to be seen and recognized, and this is a little bit backwards. When you design for the MOA, when you do exhibition design, the artwork is always the star of the show. You're never more than a supporting character. And so what we try to do is set up a context for the exhibition, an environment that will enable a patron to have the best possible experience. And we do all kinds of things behind the scenes in the background that will influence how you experience the show, but you probably won't even notice.
Exhibition installation, on the other hand, deals with the handling, hanging, and placement of the artwork. Fabrication includes the construction of physical elements of an exhibition, including walls, decorative elements, and in the case of the MOA, frames for works of art.
My name is John Adams. I am the manager of exhibit production and installation for the Museum of Art at BYU. I build and install the art exhibits, build any furniture, build any support systems or anything, prepping prepping the gallery spaces, all the way from rough carpentry work, framing walls, to the lighting of the exhibits. And any one of those areas really is a career all by themselves, and so it's been a lot to learn and pick up. There's not too many days that are normal or ordinary. It's just always something different. It just keeps it interesting, and working with a lot of different people and a lot of different materials. One day I'm working with wood, another day I'm working with metal, or plastics, or so it just kind of depends on the needs of the whatever exhibit or objects are coming in.
The design of an exhibition helps guide visitors through it and invites certain emotions through visual elements. Return from Calvary is the first work viewers see in the MOA's recently debuted exhibition Earthbound and Heavenward. The work's large presence makes it difficult to miss, but there is a specific reason for its placement at the start of the exhibition.
As you come down the stairs or as you come off an elevator and you turn to go to the exhibition, you will see it. And it is a strong piece. And part of that is the concept of the piece, this idea that after the crucifixion and Mary and John are heading back, and what must that have been like? If you'll notice, they are all turned and walking the direction of the entrance of the exhibition. So that is a subtle nod to this is how you go. This is where they're going.
Return from Calvary not only guides viewers, but it also sets the tone for the entire exhibition. As we've discussed, Return from Calvary depicts perhaps one of the most heart-wrenching moments in history, the Virgin Mary mourning after her son, Jesus Christ, was crucified. Yet there is a sense of hope as the figures move away from the darkness and toward the brighter sky. Return from Calvary fits into the exhibition as a whole, welcoming visitors into the thoughtful space. Several elements are utilized to create a certain atmosphere.
You'll notice that as you progress through the exhibition, there are 3 different paint colors. Did you guys know that? It's not just one, it's 3. And they get progressively lighter as you go on. As we move toward being a more Christ-like person, and we center God in our life, we get more light, whether that's intelligence or actual physical light, which kind of ties in nicely with BYU's 150th anniversary. We talk about celebrating the light. And so that was kind of the thought behind that, why we would want to do that. And we emphasize it obviously because the galleries, the paint color is darker, and then a medium paint color, and then a lighter paint color. And then if we flood the gallery with less light, a medium amount, and then a lot of light, it just kind of pushes that concept further. The color we chose was an olive color in a variation, and that is to kind of reference, I guess, the Garden of Gethsemane. And so we're putting in these elements that, again, you probably won't even recognize. They're subtle, but hopefully they'll help you make these connections that you might otherwise not make. Everything from the order that the paintings are in to how we light something. We will, as you progressively get lighter, we'll put more light in the gallery. The paint color's lighter, but there's physically more light as well. We also, in this particular case, have used some references from LDS architecture. So as you walk into the gallery, you'll see the Rembrandt Head of Christ. And you'll notice the wall that it's on feels somehow familiar. And it's familiar because you've seen stuff like that in LDS architecture. Whether that's in temples or chapels, or we kind of are repeating those things. There's also 2 walls that have wallpaper on them. And it's a beautiful piece of wallpaper that I think it's called Blackbird, maybe? But it's a William Morris design. And we took that because we wanted there to be an element in this exhibition that felt domestic. And by putting this wallpaper up, it kind of brings it down from institutional to more of a domestic setting, a little bit more relatable for the patron. Most of the paintings in here are not huge, with a few exceptions. Return from Calvary is one of those. But many of them are kind of more on a domestic scale. And we want the patron to walk through this and experience the exhibition in a way that's very personal. We want them to be able to have a discursive interaction with each piece of artwork. And that starts right from the very beginning. We want you to pause. We want you to look at it. We want you to feel things feel what the artist intended, but also feel the things that you bring from your life, those individual moments that you've had in your life that are unique to you. And what is that conversation like between you and the piece of artwork? So the goal of this exhibition, and truly all the exhibitions we design, is to set a stage where you can have those experiences.
In order to both frame and install Return from Calvary, John Adams spoke with us on the preliminary work he conducted to better understand the piece and its context.
Once I know of a piece that's coming in that we're going to look at, in this case, Return from Calvary, we looked into the artist. I go looking for as much information as I can about the artist. Some artists are very involved in their framing and have very distinct styles. So I do as much research as I can to figure out what they would have done, if anything. Some artists, they just painted and they put on frames of the period, or whatever the patron who was buying the artwork would have put on. So, and in this case, there's not a whole lot of information out there. So it kind of left me free to do a little, what would have been typical for the time frame.
Return to Calvary features a custom-made frame designed specifically for the painting by John and his team. The process of designing and building the frame took careful thought and attention to detail, requiring collaboration among several departments within the museum, all necessary components of this process. Building a frame from scratch is no small task and can add or detract from the public's perception of the artwork.
Standard rule is you can put something from that time period or older style onto a painting. I just started looking, and being as it's a religious piece, it's big, really felt strongly about a tabernacle frame. The tabernacle frame is tabernacle frames traditionally, they could have been built right into like a church, or sometimes they were portable. Typically they look more architectural than a standard picture frame. You'll have a pediment and you'll have the top and the bottom piece that runs clear across, then you'll have pillars that run up the side, so to speak. So it just isn't your typical frame with mitered corners and ornamentation. In this particular case, we picked something. It's called sgraffito, is the ornaments that we chose to go with. Sgraffito is Italian for scratch, and so we gilded the frame, and then we paint black over that, and we scratch back through the black paint to expose the gold. So the ornamentation on it, on the pillars and on both the top and bottom friezes have that. I get a lot of freedom when it comes to picture framing. Sometimes our curator will have an opinion on it, and I will work with our curator, make sure they're going to be happy with it. I just started doing some research on it, and in this particular piece, I found some frame designs that I liked and I thought were very fitting for the piece, in our tabernacle style. And I actually had my designers take the images of those frames and put the painting into them, so I could show the curator and show them what choices I wanted to go with and their preference. And we had like 3 or 4 of them, if I remember right, and they went with the one that I wanted to go with.
Just like the design of the exhibition, this frame's design guides viewers as they explore the piece, adding to its meaning and complementing its composition. All of these factors are just some of the considerations and choices made to better the experience of the Museum of Art's patrons. The design of the frame can impact whether those who see the art will connect with it on a deeper emotional level, a huge part of an artwork's purpose, and of this work in particular.
The painting has a lot of architecture in the background. It's not the focal point of anything, but it has a lot of architecture. There's an archway that's fairly centered in the lower part of the painting, and it has again, it's a big archway with a lot of architecture, and all the buildings and that particular archway they have flat tops. So it just kind of, and then there's a big storm cloud across the top that's very horizontal. So there's a lot of horizontal lines in it, which the frame kind of emphasizes. And then you have John, who's kind of supporting Mary in the painting, who's kind of a pillar himself on the left-hand side of the painting, and then there's another two women on the right-hand side of the painting that are standing pretty upright and erect, and almost like so I've got these strong lines in either direction, and so we're emphasizing a lot of that just with the strong lines in the frame, very horizontal, with all that architectural type molding and detail.
Hanging a piece as large as Return from Calvary required a team and an understanding of how to best ensure a safe installation for the work. We talked to John about the installation process and how the piece was hung properly.
Sometimes we will do what's called cross sliding. We'll have lights on the left-hand side that are pointed at the right-hand side of the painting, and sometimes we do that because the varnish on the painting itself is so bright or so glossy that it just reflects and you can't really see the canvas. So, and rather than having lights pointed directly at it, we'll do some things like that, or some different filters on the lights. This particular piece, we put a light on Mary, and again, with lighting, it's about blending it all out, so you don't really see a spotlight on her, but she has a little more light on her. Plus, she's painted in white, so she stands out a little bit more than the rest of the figures.
Return from Calvary invites thoughtful reflection on the somber scene. Jeff Barney offered his insights on how he feels this piece fosters an emotional connection with the viewer.
In context of this exhibition, we've talked so much about the personal, individual relationship with the art and personal and individual relationship with the Savior. And I don't know how you can look at that painting and not have your heart torn out for what Mary, the mother of Jesus, is going through. I mean, she's known her whole life who he is. But nothing can compare you to seeing your child hurt in this fashion. Even though she knew, and even though I'm sure she knew it was going to be okay, there is something about that just rips your heart out. And when you're a parent and you have kids and you see your kids getting hurt sometimes, you see situations that they have to go through and how it hurts their heart. I think it really, and I tend to be a really compassionate kind of person, but it really emphasized that need to not judge, that need to give people the most grace you can possibly muster, because you have no idea what they're going through and the pain and the sorrow that they're feeling, and for how long.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of Creation to Collection. We hope this glimpse behind the scenes has helped you see the people, care, and craft that carry each artwork into the museum. Until next time, thank you for joining us.